Greetings, Lighthead here, and this episode is a slightly unnerving one in which I've spent some time delving into things like temperature changes and various grass and water levels, and figures and listens to the accounts of very intelligent eggheads and officials and unofficials and all the rest of it, and I'll spoil the end to some extent, insofar as I'll say that this is weird and unknown. I speak, of course, of climate change, and whether or not the world is in fact trying to do us all in. I used to be skeptical of the concept of climate change because there wasn't sufficient evidence for it. Once upon a time, people used to go on and on about something called CFCs, or chlorofluorocarbons, which were depleting the ozone layer somehow. I have no idea what the hell they were talking about because the term disappeared as quickly as it appeared, but then I saw that CFCs changed focus to carbon emissions, and everyone these days goes on about carbon footprint, which most people clearly don't even understand, and blah blah blah. And it all just seemed like the same trends that we see in society all of the time. That someone introduced an idea that sounds bad, and everyone and their dog jumped onto the bandwagon, as people love to do. Well, folks, it's been some time since then, and the eggheads are still saying we're ruining the Earth. But it's not just that the atmosphere is getting hotter, is it? There's a bunch of other weird stuff happening as well. Such as sinkholes. What the hell is with all these holes opening up in random places and swallowing cars and houses and people? These aren't just a few feet deep and result in a twisted ankle. The one that opened up in Guatemala is about 330 feet deep. That's about as long as a football pitch. Proper football, not American. How long was that waiting to swallow up some random traffic? And if you think that's big, try the one in... well, okay. I can't pronounce the names without inviting ridicule. But let's just say the giant one in China is 660 meters deep. Meters, not feet. What the man? And there's several new ones opening up and swallowing cars and people all the time. Why are sinkholes just opening up and swallowing stuff randomly? They might not all be giants, but it's still happening, and it's pretty weird, wouldn't you say? And it's not just happening in one or two countries. Okay, so about 90% are happening in China, but still, they're happening everywhere else too. As a former Londoner, I have to admit to a pang of concern at the increasing flooding over the past year. Storms led to water reaching people's windows, swamped streets. Okay, so we're not living in Waterworld just yet. Thank God that film was boring. But it's more noticeable as these things are increasingly becoming. Speaking of water, for the past 20-ish years, we seem to have suffered more tsunamis too. They've managed to claim over 500,000 people alone and destroyed plenty more lives with the destruction of their homes and businesses. And water alone isn't the only weather issue, of course. Now we've got more storms tearing towns apart, the USA suffering the brunt of them, and on the whole, they've been getting stronger. More snow, more rain, more wind, more everything. It's become impossible to overlook anymore. And that's just the weather. What about disease? Remember COVID? I imagine you probably do, given that it drove most of us nuts. And although the numbers vary a bit from source to source, it's estimated to have claimed the lives of well over 7 million people. That's 7 million confirmed, by the way, not total. We don't even know for sure how many it's really claimed, and it's still mutating and becoming stronger naturally. And that's just COVID. It's not like there aren't other horrible diseases roaming around out there. At this stage, I feel it's important to mention that I'm not what you'd call a fanciful person. I don't believe aliens built the pyramids, and I don't believe in fairies, and I don't believe in Bigfoot and so on. But you have to admit, the world seems unusually aggressive of late, doesn't it? The world is proven to be formed of layers of soil and rock and the crust and vast iron deposits and a molten core, etc. All scientific and understandable stuff. But then there's the little voice in my lizard brain saying, the Earth is pissed off, and it's fed up of our shit now and wants to off us. And that sort of thinking really doesn't help my anxiety any, but there it is. The world does seem to have become more hostile, and the more charts and graphs I look at, the more it seems to be real. No, I don't think the world is alive in a conventional sense, but maybe it's a factor beyond our conscious knowledge? The same way that a wildfire will start apparently spontaneously just as there happens to be a need to cut back on the growth. With so many people being born into the world and our apparent inability to live harmoniously with it, it's understandable that people would look at all of it and claim that Gaia, or whatever, is a bit hacked off, and has opted to engage in a bit of the old ultra-violence. No, I don't believe in Gaia, but I do believe in causality where I see it.
I'm saying there may be a causality.
And now comes what may be the worst part of this whole world-altering affair, and it's one that the man himself, Master Sifu Sensei Stephen the Saint Segalio, tried to warn us about way back in 1990 on that toilet seat in the mega hit and wonderfully scripted Hard to Kill, that anticipation of death is worse than death itself. That's right. The brutal truth of the matter, ladies and gents, is this. Nobody knows for sure if it's even real. Try not to freak out. Yes, we can make logical deductions from obvious sources. We can sensibly chart the increase in overall temperatures and rises in water levels and pollution and all the rest of it. But the worrying reality is that even at this stage, our scientific development and understanding, it's still not written in stone. If it were, we would at least have been solidly punched in the face with the facts, and might all, as one people, mobilize to stop our imminent destruction. But we can't, because it's not been conclusively proven yet. I mean, it kind of has, but it also hasn't, if you see what I mean. And the problem with that is, what if we prove it too late for people to listen? You see, this is the sort of shit that keeps me up at night. But then I see videos like this.
The Earth is always changing. Climate change is nothing you have to prove. It always is happening. It always has happened. So to make that into something alarming seems to me a little bit weird. The claim that we've suddenly seen a big change in that, given we've changed the instrumentation and given the error bars cover the difference, is not entirely fair.
You see? I watch that and I think, okay, it's not so bad because the Earth has always changed in temperature over the millennia. But what if this one isn't real and the climate change is real and we're all going down? And before you jump into my comment section with what appears to be the rage of a rabies victim, I would recommend that you actually look up the facts as I did, because you, like me, are most likely not a climate scientist and don't have years of study or experience behind you. But I've taken the time to learn what I could before commenting on this subject, and so should anyone else before choosing to engage Moan Factor 5. Ultimately, I would advise doing your best to at least recycle a bit, or turn stuff off when you're not using it. Maybe walk to the shop if it's only 10 meters away instead of driving. Don't be so lazy! Or just try not creating a giant oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, because the world is rather sullied as it is. People tend to put themselves first, and you'd have thought by now that we might have learned not to. But we clearly haven't. It's just like my boy Joey Swole says,
you need to do better.
Save the world, Joey. Unfortunately, nobody that's currently alive will ever live long enough to see how well we do on the old climate front. But if we're worth our weight in salt and can show our kids how not to be massively selfish douchebags, then maybe, just maybe, our great-great-grandkids won't have to live in the wasteland. like, and subscribe. Well, looky what we have here. It seems I've been YouTubing for a whole month already. That shot passed pretty damn quickly. So given this incredible and universally important milestone, I figure it's time to address my adoring public and let you get to know me and my work a little better. I've kept my eyes on the comments. Yes, I do in fact have eyes under here. And I've felt your passion and wish to alleviate you of questions that inevitably keep you up at night. To wit, number 1. The audio. Look, do you have any idea how hard it is not to sound like Bane in this mask? In a previous video, I explained that I've used a variety of impressive technology to cut back on the muffle. And in order to achieve that, I basically shoved some tissue paper under it. It pushes the mask away from my face and lessens the dampening effect, which seems to vary somewhat as I try varying arrangements of tissue paper, and now I believe it's good enough. And if it's not, then you'll have to tell me in the comments, and I'll go away and stress over it some more. Number 2. No, I'm not actually a big raver, but I can see why I gave that impression. Yes, I've thrashed around on the dance floor from time to time, just like any of you, but I'm not into raving, particularly not that odd watered-down American version, which is all a bit too civilized and not nearly down and dirty enough for my tastes. But the mask itself is by a company called Migu. I believe I'm pronouncing their name correctly, excuse me if I'm mistaken. No, I'm not being sponsored by Migu. Wink wink, help a brother out. As you'll deduce, you can use your phone to add your own pictures to it. Which I did with the generic lighthead face, using some basic free artsy phone app, which all works pretty tidily, provided the images aren't overly complex and have a dark background, or it comes off as a bit too bright and my camera can't pick up the images clearly. And that point brings me tidily to number 3, which is that my camera drives me nuts. I mean, seriously. Why does it feel the need to keep autofocusing, even when I set it to manual focus? Kinda defeats the point of there being a manual focus option if it just goes ahead and does it on its own. I don't know about the rest of you creators out there, but I use DaVinci Resolve, which overall is a pretty fantastic bit of software. But my god, does my camera not give a because the number of times I've made a video that looks fine, only to discover it's done its random focus fandango anyway, the result of which only shows up after the video has been rendered. God damn it! How does it even mess up DaVinci like that? Thanks for letting the side down, camera! Which leads me neatly to number 4. If any technical element of these videos seems a bit beginnery to you, it's because I have no history of video editing. 0. I taught myself DaVinci Resolve over a period of about a month in real time, my overall prep time being 6 weeks in total, so if you're one of those people that's just coming to be a troll, get stuffed. I think I've done pretty damn well for someone with merely a month and a half's worth of practice, and I'll pleasure myself every evening to that thought if I so choose. Number 5. Getting more into the specific comments now. Firstly, I seem to offend some of you Robbie Williams fans out there. Oh, so sorry. You see, that skit that Robbie performed in his hotel room where he's being egotistical with his staff is indeed just a skit. But it's based on actual footage of Robbie being tremendously difficult and immature in real life. It's some old 90s documentary footage where he's staying in some villa and he's moaning about the table. Then he takes some poor guy working for him and throws him into a swimming pool. I couldn't find the original footage, unfortunately, because despite the internet containing basically everything, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to find everything. So I had to make do with the skit version. Try not to write "at me" in all caps in future. There's no need to shout. Number 6. Well, I wasn't wrong about vegetarians and vegans being emotionally sensitive, was I? No other video sparked their ire like my veg video, and that video isn't even about all vegetarians and vegans, which I did make perfectly clear, but they evidently chose to ignore this, so I shall reiterate. I don't mind vegetarians and vegans generally. Most of them are fine. It's the ones who bang on about it and try to convert everyone else to it and refer to things like cows as individuals that are so awful. I make no apology to you whatsoever. Your particular substrata of the ethical foodies sucks ass. Don't like it? Then feel free to kiss mine. Nobody wants a lecture on eating animal flesh when we're so busy enjoying the meaty, juicy goodness slip down our eager gullets. As an addendum to this point, the comments about Shaolin not eating meat because they're Buddhist, you see, Shaolin has two castes. You have the religious monks who practice their religion religiously, and yes, indeed, they wouldn't touch meat with a 10-foot pole as one would expect. This is true. But then there's the warrior monks. And this is going to hurt the feelings of you Shaolin romanticists out there, so brace for impact. They do, in fact, eat meat. And get up to a bunch of other stuff besides, which would just upset you all the more. They don't shout about it, of course, because Shaolin has become a business and they have an image to maintain. But for anyone that's privy to the realities of life in the temple, sorry, but yes, they eat meat. Quite a lot of it, in fact. They have to, because vegetarian diets do not prepare your body for such physical turmoil. They don't repair bruising fast enough, etc., despite what you'd like to believe. Remember, they're from two separate castes. A warrior and a religious observer have the option to touch upon either side of the lifestyle, but generally the Kung Fu practitioners are just interested in the fighting. Don't believe me? Then use your brain and get the information from the horse's mouth. I'd recommend videos by a YouTuber called Ranton because he's actually trained there and knows better than you do. Check him out, he's got some interesting and funny stuff. And finally, number 7. Despite the overall elements of humour, which is my way, I'm actually serious about wanting to make this world a better place. It's in a complete state as it is, and we're obviously marching headlong into all sorts of destruction. And so when I observe a point, I refuse to do so gently if being gentle won't help it. There's far too many snowflakes out there, and to you snowflakes in particular, I will highlight that the world doesn't care how upset you feel. It doesn't care about your overtly delicate sensibilities or opinions or ridiculous pronoun nonsense or that feeling of discomfort you get when someone introduces an uncomfortable subject. Part of being an adult is dealing with unpleasant and I'm not about to shy away from topics just because I'm not a pansy, even if you are. And for this I shall never apologize, I shall never relent, and I shall never compromise. I am Lighthead. I am what I am, and I'm here to stay. Woo!
Just died for me to go, woo!